Okay. So, yes. Okay, so now let me share the screen. Yeah. Okay, so we were until so we had this. So yes, more or less it's going to be the same structure, the same thing. So it's not going to take a long time, I guess. It's going to be possible to go through it. So what I'm going to do is to take the yes, and so like before, please open your mind. I don't want to be me only doing my own thing. It's much better if we interact and see what works in one language, not in the other, and then all the things. Okay, so yes, and then there was something actually that I saw afterwards. So that was, yes, the first one is different, and then we went through these first 3 verses, and there is something that I didn't take into account last time, is that the first 2 make one sentence that can be autonomous. So the difficult thing here with this kind of verses is that half of the words, grammatical words, are left aside because it's verses, so you can just take them out and still have the meaning. And so because of that, you could interpret it as if there is a connective particle or a connection between the first sentence that says, some of my mothers experience the suffering of heat, and those mothers were the ones who refreshed me when it was hot. So this could be taken as one sentence. And then the last one, which is, oh, so sad that some of my mothers are suffering from heat, this can be totally independent. And taking it that way, it makes things simpler. Let me take, yes. So if we take that one, yeah, then we would have a full stop here instead. Let me take the Tibetan again from up here and put it once here again. So yes, so here we have one sentence that says, some of my mothers are now reborn somewhere. So this would be the subject. Yes. Lalas. So until here, it is the subject. And so this is the complement of time right now. And then they are born in the hot realms. So the where they are born, and then the verb here in the end. And so altogether, it can be an independent sentence. It means, yes, and so what I would do is to turn things around and say, some of my mothers who refreshed me in the times of heat are now reborn in the age of
And now or not?
Now. Yes, sorry. Oh, my keyboard is not doing what I expected. Okay. So then we have one sentence that is kind of good on its own. And yes, and then so that they're experiencing they're experiencing suffering from heat. Yeah, then we have that. So then we don't have this kind of big questioning that we had before, like put the SOSAT at the very beginning or at the very end and these things. And keeping them as independent sentences makes the whole thing much simpler. And so, yes, the question that I had last time was that who is being reborn in the hell realms? Is it all my mothers, or is it only those who gave me yes? And so, is it only those who are reborn in hell who gave me, who refreshed me, or is it all my mothers that refreshed me in the past? So remember there was this question at the end, and so this is taking this as two sentences instead of one. Then we solve this problem. Yeah. Okay. So now the same structure here.
Yes? Can I ask you something?
Sure.
How do you realize when you have these two verses that might go together? What's the rule for that? How do you recognize when you can do that?
So the thing is that you first have to identify what are the sentences. So it's like exactly the same thing what you do when you have poetry or verses in your language. Mm-hmm. That there are, I don't know, maybe it's less kind of complicated. Yeah, you must make less guesses in Spanish because the grammatical words are all there. Mm-hmm. But then if some of them are missing, then you must try to figure out where are the sentences. So here, what go with the verb que? Que is to be reborn. So what? Mm-hmm. So usually, with like the structure or the pattern for to be born is someone is born somewhere. Then you can add the information at a given moment or not. Mm-hmm. So this is an optional complement, which is now here. So panda. Mm-hmm. And so then we find that someone is this. So some of my mothers who refresh me in the times of heat, this is someone is reborn. So we have it here.
Oh, okay.
And then we're in the 8 hotels. So this is the place. And then the complement of time, which is here. So we know that this is a sentence on its own. Then we go down. And like we said before, this is the verb ningrijie. So, oh, so sad that something happened. And what happened? It is this, that someone experienced something. And so here we have the same thing. We have someone experienced something, which is the pattern for the verb nyongwa. So this someone, then it must be what has been said before. And yes, and so here actually the intent, what they experience is tawedungal, so the suffering of heat experiences. And so the fact that they experience this is ningje. So it's so sad. Something is so sad. What is this something? That someone experiences something. Mm-hmm. And the problem here is that after kie, you actually for nyong, you expect that there is subject, someone experience. So there's someone who needs to experience something, right? And this someone, you could say that it is those people who experienced, who gave me, who refreshed me, and yet now are reborn in hot times. So, you know, if you want to make it into one sentence, you have to add que pa denso. So let's put it into yes. And then so you could interpret the sentence as being, as having this kind of structure that relates, that turns the whole sentence into the subject. So actually, if you look at how we do it in English, so we say someone experienced something, and then we say those people who experienced that. And then once you put those, then you can link it with another one. Those people who experienced that are now suffering. Mm-hmm. If you just say someone, my mothers are experiencing something, then you cannot just link it and use it as such as a subject, right? Mm-hmm. You cannot say my mother experiencing something are suffering now.
I get it.
Yeah, you have to have a kind of a strategy in order to take a sentence and turn into a subject, right? And so in our languages, like for English, then it is to say those, so you actually take the sentence and turn into something that looks like a noun. Mm-hmm. nominal group. Those people is nominal group, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you say those who experience, who refreshed me and are reborn there. Then because you have the those, then you have turned all of that into a noun.
I get it.
And so here Tibetan does the same with this pa. So denso is those, and pa is turning the verb and the sentence into a noun. Pa is the nominalizer. It turns things into a noun. And then if you have this pa denso, then it would be like those who were reborn and who refreshed me. And so that's one way of understanding the sentence, filling the gaps, let's say. Because you're expecting, Nyong expects to have a subject, someone experiences something, and then you look at the first two verses at the previous sentence and you say, oh, there is actually a possibility of doing that. Because it's verse, we know that there are some bits that are missing, so we could fill it in there by having this kiabab denso. So those who were born, instead of just they were born, full stop, you could say those who were born are now actually experiencing suffering. Yeah. And so that's one way of dealing with that problem of who is the subject of experiencing. And because it is not clearly put there, then in Tibetan, you could understand it in two ways. So what I'm saying now is that my knowledge of this subject matter of what Shabkar is saying does not allow me to decide which one is good and which one is not the right understanding. And so it possibly could be that another translator or would translate in different way, would still make one big sentence, but now looking at that, and because it solves some meaning problem, then I prefer to make it two sentences. But in order to make sure, we would need to go to ask to a Kempo or someone who has a broader knowledge about everything that is at stake. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then, in this way, then we would be kind of settled, and we would have one interpretation to follow. And then, if someone tells us, "Oh, this is not the right way, you should actually make one sentence," then we can say, "Oh, maybe that's true." But we followed that what this Kempo or this Tibetan scholar told us. And so, yeah, if you think that it's something else, then maybe we should go and talk to him and then decide and then see what final decision we arrive at. But yeah, I think that for the moment, to keep things simpler, it's better to keep these two sentences separate. Yeah. Someone wanted to say something? No? Okay. Yeah. So yes, so that's how we, and then the other thing also is that while these two sentences end, these two verses ended by the verb, and so whatever we can do without adding is better. The less you add in your interpretation, the better it is, usually. It's like when you translate, the less you have to add, the closer it is going to be to the original. So yes, and so because of that, then it sounds nicer if we don't have to put it. Yes, and then the other thing is that if we take it as an independent sentence, then the resolution of solving the problem, who is the subject, is it's not a problem anymore, because in Tibetan, the only part of a sentence that needs to be there is the verb. As long as you know who is doing what from the previous context, you can leave aside the subject, you can leave aside the object, you can leave aside all the components, all the clauses. And so because of that, then even if it is separate sentence and here the subject is lacking, it's not a problem, because Tibetan works without needing to have a subject, that are explicit. But when we translate, we have to put they, because English language requires to have subject, an explicit subject. So since we know that the reference of who is experiencing this is those mothers, some of those mothers who gave me refreshment, then we put they here. They are experiencing. That's how we can reconstruct it. Yes. Okay. So, and then going to the next one, then we have again these two sentences. The first one would be, yes, so it is the opposite. So, some of my mothers who cared of me with heat when it was cold. Can wait, please. Yeah. Now warm in the heat, cold helps. Yeah. So it's very straightforward. And yes, so who cared for me with heat? So in English, I think it sounds a little bit strange. This idea to care for someone with heat or with cold. And so, yeah, maybe, yeah, for Tibetan, the Tibetan reader is completely normal, but then maybe we have to put into something different in the translation.
Like who warmly cared for me?
Yes, but then you must be aware that you're introducing some meaning that is not in the Tibetan meaning, because actually if you say warmly care, using as an adverb, it means that the warmth is inside the mind as well, inside the, you bring some emotion, warm emotions inside the sentence.
And what does that mean in Tibetan, like to care me with heat?
Yes.
What does that mean?
So it means that when it was cold, then they wanted to take care of me, and they put clothes over me or put me near the fire and this kind of things. It's really physical heat that we're talking about, not emotional warmth at all.
I see.
Yeah, so it could be, you could translate in that way, but then you have to know that you add this meaning on top of it. So, yeah.
I think you could just use warmed. Some of my mothers who warmed me when it was cold, and it would still work.
Yeah, yeah, it still works. But then again, you know that you're taking on this kyangpa, which is to kind of to take care and to nurture. Literally, it's more nurture than care, actually. Yeah. So here again, we can't really please everyone. It's another of these situations. Yeah, which is why I take the easiest role to make the very literal translation, and I leave to you to find solutions that sound nice. Yes, who warmed me? Why not? So on the one side, you're taking some part of the meaning, and then if you warmly cared of me or nurtured me, then you're adding some other meaning. So yeah, why not? Both are possibilities.
One question, would it be kind of straightforward if we say brindaron calor in Spanish?
What did you say in Spanish? Sorry, I didn't hear.
Brindaron calor.
Ah, brindaron calor. Brindar, what's this verb mean? Brindar?
It means to give, but with
To
some
give.
care.
Ah, yes, okay. To
care.
brindar, to give as a gift.
You're, I mean, it's like heart-warmingly also.
Ah, okay.
It's not just give.
Yeah.
It would work in the meaning?
Yes. Yeah, because you have the meaning of nurturing, you have the heat as well, physical heat. So yeah, that looks nice.
Okay.
Yeah. Great solution. Anyone for Portuguese? Or maybe from Spanish, Spain Spanish.
I did write, brindaron calor, ahora nacieron en los 8 infiernos helados. Qué triste que padezcan el sufrimiento del frío.
Okay. Yeah. So that's good. Yeah. We reached the same conclusion.
I think I used acalentaram when I did this.
What exactly does that? What is the meaning of a calendar?
It has this thing of nurture, but with some kind of heat.
Okay. Great.
Exactly, because it's like acalentar is to become hotter, like acalentar, right?
Yeah.
Porque é como se fosse de se tornar mais quente, mas com cuidado.
Yeah,
Com
and
carinho,
like with your
carinho,
body, it has this thing
exactly.
with the body.
Ah, yes, okay. So it is something like warm me up in English.
No.
Okay. Yeah.
It's with care. It's for others, not to warm you.
Okay, yeah. And then our languages definitely have an advantage over English and French. I guess I would still have a problem with that. Great. Yeah, it's great to see that. Yeah, in our languages, then we have one verb or something like that, instead of having two verbs that are completely different in Tibetan. So we can give the same meaning in a way that is more kind of, less spread out. Yeah. Great to see the different characteristics of each language. And sometimes I found that in some languages, I remember one time in French when I was able to make it sound better than in Tibetan, still keeping the same meaning. So sometimes in our languages also, we're able to, in this kind of situation, we are with less words, in being more, how do you say, having to put less explicitly, we give the same meaning in a way that is much more elegant. Yeah. Okay, so for that, and then again, it's so fun that they are experiencing the suffering of cold. So that's pretty straightforward. And yeah, so if some of you have other thoughts about how to put this sosa, that, and so this ningje, which is such a pity without having this kind of condescending connotation, please. If you have new ideas, please bring them in.
I think that you'd have to use how sad.
How sad?
In English, and put like an exclamation mark at the end.
Yes,
to make it like an interjection, like how sad.
Yes.
But still, it could be a bit condescending still, but maybe
yes,
that's the way to do it.
Yeah. Yes, and then if you were to recite it or pronounce it, then you would need to take out the condescending kind of thing by the intonation or by the way you present things, right? Okay. Okay, so anything else to say about this? Can we do so? When it was called, or can we do so when it was called? At the times of called,
nurture should be in the past there. Nurture me.
Yes, right, yes. Yeah, in Tibetan is also in the past. There's the sa here at the end. Yeah. Thank you.
And the last line, the how sad that they are experiencing, should it be present continuous or just simple present?
In Nyongwa, I think it is, it is, the action is going on.
Okay.
So, so then this, I don't know enough English to say what is better in this situation, but the situation is that that they are now in hell, and then the author sees that they are going through this suffering. So I don't know what would be better, the experience or they are experiencing.
Yeah, I think maybe I would have used this like the simple present, because it still gives this idea of ongoing.
Yeah.
Whereas with the continuous, I don't know, kind of shifts the focus. I don't know why.
Okay. Okay. Any similar thing in Spanish and Portuguese with the verb tenses? This is something that is going to happen quite a lot actually when we translate, because Tibetan has only 3 tenses, and all the small kind of nuances of meaning and modalities of how the action is going is not going through the conjugation. So the difference between the present and then the present continuous is in English given through the conjugation, but in Tibetan it's not there. It's not in the conjugation at all. So yeah, anything similar to that in Portuguese and Spanish? Or?
I was wondering if it was adding too much, because in Spanish, qué triste que padezcan. El sufrimiento sounds a bit strange. It sounds like very far away, but now you just said that Shabkar is seeing the suffering. So my option was qué triste verlas padecer, el sufrimiento del frío. But I was wondering if it was adding, but in Spanish it sounds more natural.
Okay, yeah. So I think here it's better to look at the context and remembering in here in the colophon it was saying, yes, by the condition of a large number of people who didn't have at all neither food nor clothes, who came again to my, I felt an unbearable compassion that filled my heart with truth towards all sentient beings are my mothers, and then I wrote this. So then it's like he's thinking about all the sentient beings who are suffering at this very moment.
But he's not seeing them, so it could be something like how sad that qué triste saber que padecen. Instead of
yes, yeah.
Just one question there. Because maybe I missed it. Is it this connection between knowing or seeing something, or is just how sad they are suffering this? Is this second verb there? And which one exactly would it be?
Actually, I think that if we want to know that they are suffering, then we would be adding this meaning on top of because here there's only one verb, nyong, which is to experience, right? And then I think that's kind of extrapolating. This is and my interpretation of the situation, but extrapolating from the situation, I'm guessing that what Shabkar is doing is actually seeing all those beggars that suffer so much, that are coming to him, and then he through them, by looking at them, it's like he's seeing all the other sentient beings in all the different 6 realms at the same time. So for him, it's not only just knowing that something is happening, but it is through seeing them, he's seeing also the suffering of all of them, and this brings tears to his eyes. So I think that just knowing won't have such an effect, right? Or maybe it's just us that are so insensible, I don't know.
Because I felt that just what's moving him is the suffering itself.
Yes.
He's already gone beyond seeing it or perceiving it. He's what I get, he's like struck by the suffering itself. It's not just seeing it. What moves him inside is the suffering itself. He's like close to that. That's what I understood, but I was checking when Nerea talked about seeing or knowing. I would just leave that away. I would just say how sad they are suffering or experiencing this suffering.
Yeah.
But I wanted to check if that was all right.
Yeah, that's right. And then there's another thing that I'm just thinking about right now is that in Tibetan, you cannot say suffer. Suffer cannot be a verb. It is always the noun with another verb. Dungal remains a noun whatever the case. And then you have to add experience suffering, because suffering has to be experienced. It cannot be, that's the kind of the natural verb that goes together with suffering in Tibetan. And so instead of experience suffering, we could simply say they suffer of cold. Or we could say they go through the suffering. That would also be all right, yes. Because in Tibetan, the only way that you can make a sentence with suffer, you can describe the action of suffering, is by using suffering as a noun, and then having experience on the side. So we could say they suffer from cold, or yes, they go through this. Or, yes, they go through Suffering, yes, maybe it's better to put another line down there. They go through suffering of moments. Yeah, so yes, what this means is that we're not a kind of obliged to stick with the verb to experience. It is because in Tibetan there's no other way to make a sentence about suffering without using nyong, without using experiencing.
Is there a verb for experiencing?
Yes, nyongwa.
For nyongwa, okay.
Yeah, so the verb is literally there. So a more literal translation would be that. But at the same time, since we know that all this kind of poem is going much more towards his feeling rather than what he's thinking, then maybe in English and in our languages, if we say experience the suffering, it looks like we are kind of rationalizing this experience rather than just describing it directly. And so maybe that's not the best solution here. I don't know. Yeah, this is up to us how we want to translate it.
Yeah, and I was also thinking about what Robert said about the ing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think I can relate better with, if they are, whatever the verb, but using past continuous. Because sometimes when I don't use past continuous, is that the present continuous, right? Present continuous. Because otherwise it looks like it's a fact. When I say like the water boils at 100 degrees, it's a fact. It's not like I'm relating to it. And when I say, oh, this water is boiling like at 100 degrees, like gives my more closeness to this experience. I'm seeing and then suffering, it's close to me. But that's how I relate to that, right? I don't know if
in Portuguese maybe that's how in Portuguese it works.
Yeah, maybe in Portuguese
is it that way in Portuguese?
That's my experience. I don't know about others Portuguese speakers, but I think so.
Okay, yeah, then this makes sense. Yeah, usually this is something that we do. Generally speaking, when we don't really know one language, then we tend to kind of impose on the other language that we know so well the functioning of our own languages, and this is going to happen also for Tibetan, of course. But yeah, being aware of that, and I think in Portuguese maybe that's the best way to do, to put the present continuous. This is really. It's really about the feeling of native speakers. So this kind of decision needs to be made by natives, not people like me. Okay, yeah. Then the next one. So I'm going to keep it up here so we still have the same pattern, the same example. Some of my mothers who gave me food and drink. Yes, here I have a problem in English because literally it says in the time of thirst and hunger. So when keeping the same structure, it would be when it was hungry and thirsty. So this I can't do, right? So I am forced to change it and put in times of something like that.
Can we just say when I was hungry and thirsty?
Yes, that's possible as well. Hungry and thirsty. Yes, that's true.
Can I just ask something about the previous verse?
Yeah.
What do you left the nurtured of me? Is there a reason or just because it
nurtured
was
me? I think in English you don't have of.
okay.
Nurtured
Yeah.
me. Yeah. And here again, this me is not in the Tibetan. I'm reconstructed because in English the nurture requires to have this person who received the nurturing. In Tibetan, you don't have that. It is left implied.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, and here again, the reason why I was wanting to put in time stuff is because this tu, so tu is the time, right? And so I was again being very literal. But yeah, so if we want to have a more kind down to earth approach to this text, then we can simply say when I was hungry and thirsty. Right? Correct. Okay. Or no.
Or I can say in times of hunger and thirst.
Yes. Yeah. But it makes things a little bit more literal, a little bit more formal, right? So then this is again is a decision that we have to make whether we want to, in which direction we want to go. But yeah, both could be.
One question: would it be enough to mean when there was hunger and thirst only du, or do we need the su as well here? Because it's written language.
Yes. In times, do we need the when?
Su. Do we need
yes.
su?
So actually here, the thing is that the verb that we're talking about is tre. So tre, to give something to someone, right? So the structure is someone gives something to someone else. So that's the base. And on top of that, if you want to say at a given time, then you need to have this at particle, which is the ladun here, su. Right? And so it's not that we need to keep, especially su, which is the time when or etc., because there's su in Tibetan, but it is just here. Tregong dusu is just at the moment where there was hunger and thirst. It could be translated when I was, because when has already the meaning of the location, right? Location in terms of time rather than space. Yeah.
Sorry.
And yes, and in colloquial?
When we talk,
yes,
we use, when we mean when,
yeah,
we say something do.
Yeah, right? Do. Yes. But it's actually, what happens here is that, so if you want to put the canonical structure, so to kind of fully blow, to have the whole sentence, then you need to have du su. But because du and su always go together, there's this very great linguistic rule or law that applies all the time in language, which is if you can convey the same meaning with less words, you will definitely do it. So this is what happened here with du, because du and su always go together, and without having su, just having du works just fine. And so people starting to leave aside, to omit su. And so what happens in the mind of Tibetans is that when you say on du, the su is implied already. It's still there, but you don't need to say it. So whether you say Tregom du or Tregom du su, it's completely equivalent. There's no difference at all. So in the translation, there should not be any difference in the way we render it because there's su and because there's no su, because in Tibetan, it doesn't change anything at all. It's just the same. But what you were proposing, Elisa, was
no. Just my question was about the when.
Yes.
The idea of when.
Yes, but yes, this idea of when, du alone has it already. Yeah. Okay. So yes. And then the other thing first. Yeah, so this difference between these two is really a stylistic choice. There's no really. It's in the way that we want to read the Tibetan that we make this one. I'm not born in the Nesus. And previously we have Traniel Gedus. Yeah, so we don't have the place of this. And so here, where is it? Nesu. Yeah, so the place is added because we need a syllable to have the right amount of feet in this verse. In the place of hungry ghosts, or we could put letters. Yeah. And yeah, then we can think about this place. Is it really the word that we want to keep here or not? We could literally name its place, right? So that's it, yeah. But then we could change it.
We change it to realm or something like that when.
Yes, yeah, because yeah, it's kind of, it makes sense because we're talking about the 6 realms, the 6 different classes of beings with who has each on their own realm. So we could say that, oh, Shabkar is talking about 6 realms. So I'm not bringing a new idea. I'm just making obvious what is implied. So we could say realms as well. Or we could say the world of hungry ghosts, if we do not want to have this kind of this idea that is linked with a specific Buddhist theory. Yeah. These are possibilities. Or we could also just decide to leave it aside altogether because we know that it is just added in order to have an extra foot for the versification process. So it doesn't bring any meaning on its own. And then maybe we could also know that, but still feel that don't feel at ease removing something that is there. So all of this is fine as well.
One question, Rubchen, can I use that instead of who? Some of my mother that, I don't know, maybe it's the English speakers.
Yes, yeah, yes. So usually who goes for people and that goes for inanimate things. So I guess that in English, you're kind of forced of using who.
Okay.
Yeah, but I know that Spanish and Portuguese don't work that way. So, yeah. So whatever works okay for your language is fine. Yes, and so that's a full stop here. And then we had, yes. Yes, okay, so there's already, and this shouldn't be here. Okay. First. Yeah. So anything else that you see that I don't see for this verse here? Okay, yeah, and now we can still go back afterwards. Oh, to the next one. And my mothers who jump it up, yes. Nurtured. So yes, I just want to check something here. We're saying who gave me food, and then yes, so it is there. There's no can. So the nurture was up here. Now down there. Yes, and so this is there, which is giving also. The can is only for the count here. for the cold, and now for kindness. Yes. Yes. Nurtured me. Chinchen. So also there's Chinchen. We don't know if we actually took this into account since the beginning or not.
I don't think it appeared before it starts there.
Is it? No, we already have here.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wait.
Yes, and we didn't translate that actually, so I don't know. It refreshed me when heat was raging. Yes. Yes, so this is Chinchemas. So there's actually this kind of kind mothers that need to be put here. Chinchen.
Chinchenma refers to the mother.
Yes, Chinchen goes to the mother. Yes. Chinchen Kima. You can understand that there's a genitive between the two. There's a link. It is the mother who is kind. Yeah.
Not the mothers to whom I feel gratitude.
This Chinchen Kima. No. Yeah, this could be a way of translating it, and I think that this should have happened at one point when we're talking about teachers, about the root guru or the teacher in some translations, but it is still a stylistic choice of translating into English or other languages. So towards whom I feel gratitude, and because if you want to put, not keep it kindness, but put the word gratitude, which has a kind of more larger scope of meaning, you cannot really use it as an adjective, right? If you say grateful mothers, then it is the mothers themselves who are grateful.
Yeah.
So yeah, you change the meaning, and because of that, then you're forced to kind of paraphrase it and turn to something else, and then say towards whom I feel gratitude instead of kind teacher. Yeah. And here again, kind leaves me like a little bit uneasy because we don't have this idea of gratitude. Like I think we already talked about that, right? During the first time about Jingchen, about having this kind of, usually have this depth of gratitude. And it's not just that they were kind, but we really feel that they were kind and they really did something great for us when you say Jingchen. So it's more than just someone kind on the street that you meet. But yeah, I don't find any other way to put it into English than kind mothers. Maybe in Spanish and Portuguese, there's something better.
In Spanish, could it be something like nuestras bondadosas madres? From
bondadosos.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Bondadosa, yes. And bondos is kind that's the word that you use for the four immeasurable thoughts, right? When you have immeasurable kindness, then that's the word that you use, right? Also.
Sorry, I couldn't
hear. It was a bondade.
Bondage. When you have the four immeasurable thoughts, kindness, compassion, equanimity, and joy, then in Spanish, bondad is the one that you're going to use, right?
Not in Argentina.
Not in Argentina? Okay.
No,
what
is alegría, compasión, ecuanimidad, and I'm missing one.
Yes, that's the one. Because alegría is joy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's the missing one that you don't have.
Amor.
Amor. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, amor. Yes, that's
right.
Here sometimes they say amor bondadoso.
Yes, amor
you
bondadoso.
have like many translations in Argentina,
yes.
but one of them is amor bondadoso.
Same in Spain.
Well, in Portuguese too, bondade amorosa.
Yeah, and so this is for Chamba. In the four thoughts, the word in Tibetan is Chamba. Here we have Kajin, Jin, which is slightly different. But yeah, and then again, if we could put amorosa, mothers, but I don't know if this brings some extra meaning that we don't want here or not. Maybe bondosa is still better. Yeah.
When you say Trinchenma, it puts more the accent of the action of the mother or the way I received it?
I would say that it's both at the same time. It is that I know and I really see, it's clear in my mind that I have received so much care and love. And because of that, I feel grateful. Or I feel that I cannot just stay there without doing something.
So to have both meanings, we would have to say algunas de mis bondadosas madres a las que estoy tan agradecido porque con amor siempre me cuidaron. Then
Yes.
the whole meaning would be there.
Yes. Yeah.
But it makes
That's
it very
true.
long.
Yeah. But then, yeah, it's like Tibetans also, I saw that they did that in when they translated from some Sanskrit. And I think it was one of the Khenpos who came and gave a talk, Dharmasanga talk, who said that sometimes when there were 3 verses in Sanskrit, they made it 4 in Tibetan because they had to add more words. So yeah, it could be something. If you really think that the meaning is really important here to have, and you really cannot do without putting both of these, which kind of somehow makes sense because Shabkar, the whole point is that he's so moved by the suffering of those beggars that he feels compelled to do something, and that's what he's expressing through this song. And so it makes sense to keep both of these meanings also. So maybe if it really is too long, then one solution could be to make 4 lines instead of 3 each time. I think Khenpo David also showed us that sometimes he did that, right? He didn't respect the exact amount of lines he had in Tibetan, but change according to the English meters. Yeah.
Rupchen, can you? Oh, sorry.
You can go.
Thank you. Can you explain about some? Because in Spanish, some is like a few, not all of my mothers, but
yes, yeah. So it's very simple. So all of the mothers, all sentient beings, have given him have refreshed him when it was hot, right? Because all of them have been his mothers at some point. And so all of sentient beings have given him refreshments when it was hot. But at the same time, not all of these sentient beings are now born in the 8 hot realms, 8 hot hells. So that's why he said, so out of all my mothers who refresh me in times of heat, some of them are now born in the 8 hot hells. So I don't know if my English translations give that meaning clear or not. But in Tibetan, it is that, so the mothers who refreshed him, here you have all sentient beings that are included. And then when you say those who are reborn in the hot hells, there's only some of them. Yeah, so then maybe the way that it is formulated in English doesn't work in Spanish and Portuguese, yeah, to give this meaning. I don't know.
Can I ask something maybe very silly, but what does Lala exactly mean?
Lala is some.
Some?
Some, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it means some, and it's not a word that you can analyze like so many other words in Tibetan that you can go inside and see it. Lala is just on its own. You have to take it as a whole.
Right.
Yeah. If I try to cut it down, the only thing that I can find is La, right? And La is either kind of the place in between two mountains where people can go through a pass, mountain pass, or it is the particle, locative particle. But besides that, I cannot see the meaning of La. And so how it came to mean some of them, I don't know, but that's what it means.
Is it a valley? A valley?
No, a mountain pass.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
No, just that I made a 4th line only for Ninreje, because I remember when you explained the meaning, I made the choice to use the meaning. I put something like how much compassion I feel now. I wish they would not be suffering, something like that. because we don't have yet the meaning for Ningreje. And you explain how he would be feeling, and I prefer to put that as a whole sentence.
Yeah, and this makes me a little bit unsure about myself, because, and then I'm hesitating between, is it the colloquial meaning of Yingji that we have to take? Do we really need to take compassion or not? Then I feel that in order to decide that, or if we want to keep both of them, or if both are necessary, and so this, I think that someone with more knowledge, like a Kempo, should answer that. But yeah, there's definitely these two possibilities of interpretation, and yeah, why not? Keeping in that as something as an extra line makes come through better, that for the reader. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but it's true that, yeah, like if we just say how sad that they suffer, it sounds a little bit, it seems like you have only half of the emotion in there from Ningreje, knowing the context and knowing the having read the colophon, etc. The situation. Yeah. Okay, so where were we here? Some of mother who nurtured me with kindness. Yes. Now, born the animals.
Drupchen,
Yes.
you don't translate taktu here? Isn't it something like always or continuously?
Yes, I'm now born. Yes. Yeah, yes, but there it's found now. But I had put it also. What did you say? Taktu?
Yeah, taktu.
Taktu. Yes. Yes. Taktu. Literally, it is permanently. So in spoken Tibetan, taktu is takwar. Takwar. Shokbal tigas langue. So all the time. Taking the right. So it could be constantly. Yeah.
Always?
Always, yeah. Yeah, it's a always, yeah. Simpler solution than constantly. But at the same time, here, I don't know if he so here Shabkar chose not to stay with the most obvious and simplest spoken Tibetan solution, Takpar. And since it is also 2 syllables, it could be, he could have chosen that. But then he chose a somehow more formal, more literal solution, which is taktu. So maybe just because taktu sounds better in terms of just how the melody or something like that, this could be one solution, one reason. But another reason might be that he wanted to put more emphasis on the fact that it is permanent. So to bring this idea of permanence. So yeah, it could be one or the other. So I think I would prefer to put constantly, because it puts more the emphasis on the fact that it is going on, like going towards permanence rather than always.
Yeah, and without stopping. Is it like?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Another word that we could have used is continuously, but then you have this idea of this something that goes on all the time, like a flow of a river or something, and this taktu doesn't really have that. It's more meaning permanence. Yeah. Thank you, Elisa.
Anyway, always is 1%, I mean 100% permanent.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's just a synonym, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, it is a synonym. But when in the use, at least in English, what I feel is that when you say always, you don't have this. You have less the impression that it is something that is continuous, that is constant. When you say always, it has just more a kind of generic meaning.
It's like lighter than permanently or
yes.
constantly.
Yeah. Constantly, yes.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I find it lighter. It's interesting because for me it sounds stronger. I mean, if it's
okay.
always, it's continuously and forever.
Okay. Yeah.
It's always at all times.
Okay.
And forever.
Yeah. So in Tibetan, that's the meaning, and which one you choose in your own language can change. Yeah. It's interesting to see that in different languages, then you have different connotations. But yeah, what I was going to say is that yeah, it's definitely synonyms. But the reason why one word has not been lost and is still there besides the other one is because they have a slight nuance, and so you use it slightly differently. So 100% synonym don't exist. That's something that we say in linguistics. But yeah, and so when you translate, then this gives the small nuances that we might or might not want to give. So yeah, and they culture and domain, yes, they suffer from being yes, and so here culture, yeah. So these two words, it will be. So cul is to be given order of something, I think. Let me look in the dictionary. To employ, to hire, to enslave, to kind of to give some work. And in Tibetan, what does it say? Yeah, so that's not the meaning here.
If you go down, there is culture. Is that the one? If you just scroll down, can you see it?
Where is it?
Down. No, not so. No, on the left.
On the left.
At the very end. Yeah, that one.
Culture.
Is that the same or not?
No.
Okay.
We have che. Which is not here. Might be yes. Culture. Culture is this one that we have.
Exploited.
Yes, but yes. And what I wanted to see is that lega kulwa. So it could be culture could be taken as a single verb, but it also could be taken as two different words. And usually, for knowing which case we are into, the Tibetan dictionary is not really helpful, because translators who made this dictionary, who put together this glossary that then were turned into Rangjung Yeshe and the other dictionaries, often put whole expressions and whole phrases into the dictionary as if it were one word. So you can't really rely on the dictionary says it's one word, so it should be one word. But then if you go to skull, it's strange that you have here to boil, because to boil is sakatagan kolokol. Seems to be an error.
What about exploit?
Yes. So so the first meaning here in Tibetan is to make use of someone. So you have an animal, you make use of him for what you need to do. So yes, that's not the other. So exploit is much more than just use, right?
Yeah, exploit, at least in Spanish, has this idea of abuse.
Yes.
Far.
Used and cultures. So the understanding that I had is that yes, okay, so that's not the right one. So double So it is to use, but in order to do some work. Here, the example that they gave is to use the either horse or bamboo. It's what the name?
Burro, banana.
Burro, yes.
Donkey.
Donkey, right? Thank you. A donkey in order to carry some fertilizer. So it is in order to use in order to do some work. So it's not just
without being paid.
Yes. You could call and still pay, but here used to animals, of course, then you don't give them anything in return.
I was just justifying what Elisa said, exploitada.
Yes, exploit. Yes. Yeah. Being used and so used for work. And jur is just to make use of.
Would it have the idea also, Druchen, of be enslaver? Because esclavizados in Spanish would be something like that, because they don't have any choice, they can't choose.
I was thinking the same, Elisa.
Yeah.
Yes, but here again, so you could use that word and it would be a good translation, but you need to know that you're adding the idea that they cannot go out, they're enslaved, they're not free. So this, the part of the meaning of the word that they're enslaved, they don't have the freedom to go away. This is not found in culture. Culture, so yes, culture is being used for work, and chur is just to use, so that's the literal meaning. Yeah. So chur here is added because Tibetans like to have words or verbs that have two syllables. And when there's only one, then they just add another one that says the same thing in order to have two syllables. Yeah. Culture. And yes, but then, like here we were seeing here, if you go to culture, we're in chur already. Culture, and then we have bound into servitude. So it is slavery that has been translated. Utilization, exploitation, putting to work, servitude. Yeah, so this is something else. But yeah, so it is all these words that were used at some point by someone in the translation. Yes, and then that's what Ranjung Ishe is actually. It's just kind of gathering all the possible words and expressions that were used by different translators in different contexts, in different translations. And then we have to kind of abstract from that the meaning, and actually, yeah, the best solution usually is to go to the Tibetan dictionary, because then it gives literally the meaning here. And culture, so both of these words together, the verb here is to put to work. Kul is to kind of to put to work. Just on culture yes, to put to work. So and so to exploit seems to be a good solution. Put into.
Do you think Drupchen is a synonymous of leka or not?
Culture, no, leka is a noun. Culture is verb. Yeah, but lega kulwa. So in the definition of in Tibetan, you have definitely lega, you have work. I would say that if we would use bound into servitude or enslaved, we have the meaning that the person is working for us in a way that they shouldn't, but we also have the meaning that they lose their freedom, which is not in the literal word. As the Tibetan dictionary says, it's just to put someone to work.
Can I ask something?
Yeah.
Does in Tibetan, does it have the connotation of being treated like an object?
No.
Okay.
No. I don't think that I at least from I don't think that there is that. Yeah.
Okay.
As far as I can say, but I don't think so. Yeah, and I know it is a strategy that makes it very easy and very comforting to exploit people, etc., so that we don't feel bad and feel guilty about it. But I don't think Tibetans will do that. Or maybe if they do it, it's not kind of officialized in the language.
Bondage is. I put that on the chat. Bondage.
Bondage. Bondage, yes, but yes, bondage has much more the idea that you're taking away the freedom of someone, right? Much more than any idea of putting them to work.
Into bondage.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, this my English.
But it doesn't mean that you're a prisoner. It means that you're working.
Ah, yes, okay. Yeah, then maybe. Then my English isn't really that. Yeah. Okay. Yes, all of this could be, as long as we have the idea that they are putting to work when they shouldn't be, and then any translation is fine.
I think your servitude is a little bit close, right? Servitude.
Servitude, I don't know.
Or forced servitude.
It's in English, so I have to French. The condition of being a slave or being forced to obey to another person. Yeah, so we don't have this idea of working, just being a slave.
Okay.
That's at least what I can see from here. Maybe there are going to be other definitions in other dictionaries. Ah, yes, okay, so yeah, the position of someone who is a slave or someone who is completely controlled by another person. Yeah, so it's slightly different idea. Yeah, culture is explicitly to exploit or being useful. Okay, but it doesn't mean that if we put enough context, we cannot use the other words as well. Okay, so then the next one of my mother's. Yes, and actually I think that the tactu, so that constantly was added in order to have more feet also on this verse. Yeah, but whatever the case, some of my mother's so we count the Germans. England with whatever wanted. No.
Should we put kind again?
Kind. Here we have Tsewa. We don't have dream anymore. Tsewa is really like the love of one mother to her son, to her child.
But at the end, don't we have like the same chin there?
Ah, yes, yes. My kind mother, right. Yes. Yes. And here as well.
Zero is also a warm heart, right?
So, yes. Yeah. I hear
Tender heart, right? He said
yes.
tender.
Yes. I know. Some of them, loving gave me whatever I wanted. And now one. Yes, in the realm of humans, not past humans, not human beings. Значит, у меня манерчинец. Also, that suffer from Sickness and death. Okay. So here, who gave me whatever I wanted. Who gave me. Can't even do it. Literally, that's it. But maybe there's more elegant way of putting it. Yeah. Okay. Yes, and then here, there. Let's see if there with this spelling also works for past tense, because it looks to me that is the present tense. Present there. Yeah. In the past, it would be. It can be there like that as well. Yeah. Some work. Say that. Yes. So yes, it could be past as well. Yeah. So it's fine. Gave me. Yeah. Okay. Does. I think that's pretty straightforward. So don't hesitate to say if there's anything that comes to you. The next one then. Find. I'm going to forget to press find. Mothers who never connect your between channels who affected me on arms. Born of our parts. Okay. Also, suffered from conflicts. So conflicts looks a little bit short for the suffering of semigods, right? So let's look at the word. So here again is two verbs. The first one means to find, and the second one means to debate or to have arguments. Yes, to be in conflict. Yeah. So let's see in the dictionary what it says. If the Tibetan dictionary has it a singular verb or not. So, yeah, so it is to wage battle or to go to war. In Tibetan, but then yeah, they translate it as a fight. And this is the first meaning, and second, yeah, this is to battle, to be in a battle, to fight. Okay, so which yeah, I think, tell me what you think, but I think quarrel is not quite the same intensity as the war that semigods are meant to wage against the gods, right? They all die and they're so, yeah. So maybe conflict is too fighting, maybe. We could also put waging wars.
I think maybe hostility or hostilities, because it has the meaning of war at the same time as conflict and opposition.
Okay, yeah. So in this context, it will not be just to be in a position with, right? The reader is going to understand that we're talking about war. Or at least also war.
Yeah, I think if you put the plural, hostilities, then it gives that impression of war.
Okay, okay. Yeah.
But can we, I mean, at least we have a word in Spanish, but in English, doesn't it just mean that you have an attitude that's really harsh, but does not necessarily imply that you go into a physical fight, hostilities?
I think hostilities has the idea of acts of warfare. Like during the war, hostilities occur, which is actual.
Plural, right?
Only...
Yeah, I think in the plural, it has that idea of acts of warfare. So.
Yeah, then maybe in Spanish and Portuguese, you have this idea of to be hostile.
Yeah,
it's to be stated that, right?
It's not as aggressive. The hostile can be very much lighter than hostilities as waging war. Right? Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So it's nice to see that, yeah, even between English and our languages, then there are some differences in meaning. Yeah. Okay, so hostility is one word for Spanish and Portuguese.
Las peleas.
In French, I think it would work because we said the one king started the hostilities in order to mean he started a war.
Yeah, I think in English we stole the word from French, so.
Yes, okay. Yeah, that's what when I was working between French and English language, I always kind of was upset at how many more words English had compared to French, 2 times more vocabulary, 2 times more possibilities. Because you have from the Germanic side and also from the French, so from the Latin side, so you have the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I think it's 25% of the English vocabulary that comes from French.
Mm-hmm.
In the Cambridge Dictionary for hostilities, it says fighting in a war.
Okay.
Yeah, in Macmillan too, fighting between enemies in a war, in plural, only, not in singular. Yeah, great.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that we get the idea. And then some of my colleagues, mothers, who have a connection who only cared for me. So this is going to be a difficult one. Benefit Hemba doesn't mean anything, does it? So yeah, so you have to help me. Let me give you the idea here. Yeah, so we're taking care. So they're taking care of me. So which is why I didn't put nurture. It's yes, it is kyangwa. Yes, kyang is in the past and kyong is, yeah, so it could be also nurtured. Yeah, kyong is in the present. Nurtured me. And Pemba is something that is beneficial. Let's look at what the Tibetan says. Benefit, to be useful, yeah. And then in Tibetan, Pendoba, something that is useful. And then yes, so here, since it is noun, it is benefit. And so it could be benefit in terms of what you get when you do business, or benefit in terms of benefiting someone. Both meanings are found in the Tibetan word. Yeah. So being useful, in other words. Okay. And here, I guess that it would be opposed to yeah, to take care of someone by, usually we take care of someone, but sometimes we do things that are not so helpful, or that's actually harm others. So how to put that? So, only nurtured me who. No, someone cameras.
Also, the idea would be in a beneficial way.
Yes, yes. Not only in a beneficial way, nurtured me and only did good things to me.
Some of my mothers who only bring me benefit.
Nurtured me.
That sounds nice. Bring me benefit, but solely is better than only.
Good to me. That's the very basic and awful way of putting it. Yeah. So solely bringing me benefit. So the thing that I don't really, that I feel awkward using benefit is that benefit in English, at least to the way what I feel, is that it's very formal. You're not going to use that word in like an everyday context. So it sounds good, but it is very formal. It's very literary. Whereas here, Pemba Kondi Kyongbe Chiang does not have this feeling of being high level language, etc.
Drupchen.
By only doing me good.
This Sakyonwa. Pemba Kona is only benefit, but what is the sa there? Sakyonwa is better.
Kone Kyongwa. So I'm actually splitting the words. Kone Kyongwa.
Okay.
Yeah. Still doesn't like. Only
and so this kone is the with the chedra kona.
Yes, it is the zebra. Yeah? Yes. So it is. I'm taking their. So my mothers are taking care of me, and they are doing that in a certain way. So that's why there's the chedra. So and the way that they're doing is only through beneficial things, beneficial actions. So they're taking care. Maybe nurture is too strong for that. So, yeah, who care for me? Yeah, I don't know how to put it here. Yes. So yes. So you have this is like it is the chapter, the subject mark, and it's like when someone does something. It's like when the traditional example is you cut some wood with an axe. So with an axe, this is the object or the instrument with which you're going to do the action, right? And so here the mothers are taking care of me, and the way through which they're doing it, or the instrument that they're using to do that, is only beneficial things. So that's why there's this subject mark here.
Do you think that when the chedra is like that is to emphasize the not only to show the main, but also in translation would be an emphasis?
You cannot remove it. You
cannot say emphasis on that object.
No, actually, if you want to say that they took care of me in a certain way, then you must use that. You cannot leave it aside. From the moment that the action is done in a certain way through a certain instrument, then you need to have that structure. You cannot do without it. You cannot say Pemba Kona Kyongwe.
No, that's not my question. My question is that when the way that we should understand it is that this kone is emphasizing that it's only.
Yes, kona means only. Yes, kona means only.
Yeah, but when you have the chedra.
Yeah, the chedra needs to be there, whatever the case. You cannot do without. So if you want to have that meaning, it's the standard way, because there's no emphasis. There's no effect doing the
Got it.
Yeah, that's the only way to do it. In the same way that when you put pronouns like in English, if you say they are doing this, it's not that you want to put the emphasis by using they, but it's the only way to make that sentence.
Yeah. Well, if you put only itself, it's already an emphasis, right?
Only has the meaning, yes, but emphasis is carried by the word, not by the gender. So this emphasis would be carried by comma, by the word itself, not by the structure.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yes, okay. So I don't know how to do that to make it nice, but I hope that you have some nice way of putting it in your languages. You care for me, only doing me good. Now born in the love of God's. Fine, so yes, yeah, put on the images. Sound, they suffer from, so I don't remember the exact word that we have in English, but I'm sure dictionary remembers that. Yeah, from change and form, transformation.
May I ask you a question there?
Yes.
If we remove the word kona,
Yeah.
then where will we put the chedra?
Pempe.
Could we put it in pempe? Yes.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Then,
you have to use it. Yeah. You
yes.
cannot make this.
No, of course.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So again, it would say that is the main means of, that is the main way in which I was cared for in a beneficial manner, right?
Yes, yeah. So technically speaking, it is the instrument that is used by my mothers in order to take care of me.
Yes.
Yeah. And then if you remove kona, it would the sentence would mean who cares for me doing me good. You remove the only.
Doing, who cared for me doing what?
Doing me good.
Ah, okay. Got it.
Yeah, so you just take the only, you just remove the sentence still keeps okay. Okay. And then here from the change and form, I'm not really satisfied with that, but I don't see any. So ko means to go from somewhere to someone else, or actually to power. How do they translate that? Great. Yes, to go from one place and move to another. It's like when you move houses, you actually per houses. You per from one house to the other.
Sounds a bit strange. El sufrimiento de la mudanza.
Yes.
Although it is a suffering to move houses.
Yes. Yeah, it is. I'm in the middle of that.
You know.
Unfortunately. Change and form. Yeah, and then yeah, so literally potong means that, and then yes, and so the reason why they put transmigration is because in this context it's not just moving from one house to the another, but it is good to go from the life of gods to the life of hells most of the time. Then they bring this extra meaning that transmigration has from the Buddhist context.
And here is the problem, is that it sounds very official, right? And
yes,
it's
exactly.
Yes. Has that closeness.
Yes, yes.
That's the difficulty we encountered also.
Yeah. To change and form, the suffering from the suffer from. Yeah. But at the same time, since here what he's referring to is the technical term that is used for the suffering of God, 보통 기도말. If you, let's put that here. So it doesn't think it's in the dictionary. Yeah, so 보통 we have to change this. Yeah. So Shabkar tries to have a very kind of down-to-earth language, but at the same time, now he's using Buddhist concepts, right? The suffering of God is not something that can be found in everyday Tibetan, everyday life in Tibet, and because of that, then he has to resort to the words and the expressions that he found when he studied in books. So it could be used but at the same time, yes, then you lose the feel of the text. But yeah, and then falling, yeah, then maybe downfall is falling alone is out of context. It's a bit difficult also. So I'm not really. Yeah. Yeah, so this is also something that we need to take into account when we find technical terminology. Then if he used that even in a very kind of very simple context, then we also have to use the technical terms. But if it is possible to change it, then why not? Okay. I'm not keeping track of the time. How much time do we have left?
It's 8 o'clock.
We go over it.
Been over 10 minutes.
Okay, yes, then we should make a break now. Yeah. So then we have still three small paragraphs. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we make the pause, and after we meet again for Mingyur Muji's teaching.
So are we going to meet at, in an hour or in 15 minutes?
Usually the break is 1 hour, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, in 1 hour then. Okay.
Yeah.